Hello and welcome. We're going to work on our sign up now. So we made this app.use, it's API v1/auth, and that sends us to the auth routes. Let's take a look at auth routes. Our auth routes contain one route. The route is /signup. So if we hit API v1 auth/signup, we're going to use the function that is authcontroller.signup, and it has to be a post request hit. If we hit this route with a get request or anything else, it will not hit this authcontroller signup. Now, the signup is supposed to be a function that actually signs a user up to our database and gives them a JSON web token. So we're going to work on getting them a JSON web token and signing them up into our database now. So first, let's const JWT. That's going to be our JSON web token, and we're going to bring it into our project. First, I'm going to bring in a build of our project just by pressing yarn, making sure we're building. And we have our dependencies. Now we need to bring in yarn add JSON web token. And the other thing we want to add is bcrypt. Now, bcrypt will encrypt our password. So those are the two things that we need to get through this sign up portion. So add both of those. And there we are. So let's identify our JWT. That will require a JSON web token. And I just am making it JWT because I don't want to write this over and over again. And we also will bring in const bcrypt. That will require bcrypt. And then finally, let's bring in the const user, which will be require. We didn't make this folder yet. Let me make the folder first. Call it schemas. So const user will require, and the path to that, which will be up1 and into schemas, and then we will name it user like that. Oh, and I messed up const. There we go. Now we have no errors on the screen. Now in this video, we're going to define what a user is. And then after that, we can do things like pass the user a JSON web token and encrypt their password, everything like that. But we need to know what a user is in our database. What does a user's information look like? That goes in the schemas. We're going to use a Mongoose schema. So put a new file called user.js. And in here, we're going to const Mongoose will equal require, and then Mongoose. Other than that, we could use bcrypt in here to do the password work, and we could import a validator just in case people send things to our API and they don't do it through our form, which has the front-end validation. If they send us something that isn't in an email and we look at it, we can actually validate if it's an email. So let's do that too. Make this const fixed. So we'll do const validator, and I'm going to import that as well. So yarn add validator. So const validator will equal require validator. Perfect. That's all we'll use for right now. So now we're going to make the user schema, const user schema, make that a new Mongoose schema, and in there we're going to have an email, and it's an object, and we're going to have a password, and that's also an object. And now everything that goes inside of these objects is what a email actually is. So what makes up an email? It's a type of a string. That's a capital S in string. The other thing that'll make up an email is that it has to be unique. We don't want to have anybody else coming in with the same email or people signing up 3 or 4 times, just one email per database, really. We want to make sure that that is unique. Next, we want it to be lowercase because email case does not matter. whether it's uppercase or lowercase. So we'll do that. And then let's do one validation here. So validate. And what we'll do here is open up an array and we'll give the validator. And what we want to say is .is email. So this will validate if this is an email or not. And then we'll just return an error. Email is invalid. Perfect. So we have that all set up here. We have the type, unique, lowercase, and validate. Now, the only other thing we can do over here is say required. And we want it to be required. So just required and true. And make sure we comment through this stuff. Yeah, so this has to exist. So we did required true. Now, password is going to be very similar with the type of string. And we don't need it to be unique. People can have the same password. We'll do required true. You know what? Let's do these required fields, just like we did the validate fields. So required, we'll pass it true, and then we'll pass in an error message. So we'll say email is required. And we'll do the same thing here. So true, and the password, let's do that capital. Password is required. And min length, we know that we said 8 on the front end, so we'll do 8 on the back end too. Passwords have to be 8. And now there's just one more thing. We never want to select this and send it to the front end. We never want the password going out there, so we'll say select, and we'll turn that on false. So the password doesn't get passed to the front end when we hand the user information to the front end. Now we need to make this into a user schema. So const user capital is going to equal mongoose dot model user, and we'll pass it the user schema, and we're getting the user schema from right up here. So we're calling it user, we're passing in the user schema, and then we need to export something, and we're going to export the user. Module.exports and equals user. And we now have a schema. This is what a user will look like in data in our database. This is what the email will look like. This is what the password will look like. I know that seems like quite a bit to define a user, but it's very important to really define your schemas and know exactly what type of data is coming in so you can use it properly. So now that we have this, let's go back to our auth controller, and we're importing user already. So I'm just going to do a small little signup function, not the JWT stuff and not bcrypt yet, but a small signup function just so that we get that started, and we'll get into two things a little bit deeper on the next one. So right now we'll go into our auth controller, and we know we have this export signup. It's only console logging something right now, but there's a lot more we can do. So in the request, since it's a post request, it'll have a body, and I want to pull 2 things off the body. It'll be the email and the password. So whatever's labeled email and password will be pulled off request.body. So we have that, and all we need to do is a try catch. I'll change that to ERR, I prefer that. So we have a try catch here, and we'll say const new user equals await user dot create. So we passed it the user schema, so it knows what a user looks like, and it can create it with the email and the password. And that's really all we need to do on that end. We'll eventually need to give the user something back, and that's what we'll be doing with our JSON web token. But let's just catch the error here. If we want to catch this error, it's pretty simple. Just res.status 401, which I think is, creation didn't happen. We could look up those codes in case we get any wrong. And then we'll just pass back the error.message so we see what happened there. So we have it completely working now, and we actually can sign up a user and they'll wind up in our database, but we won't be able to authenticate them in any serious way. Their password will be in our database blindly right now. It'll actually say their password without it being encrypted. That's something we don't want. And we won't be able to give them a JSON web token, so they can't have any authentication really going on yet at all. On the next lesson, we will do our bcrypt, our JSON web token, and we will send one request from our API to our backend, signing up a user. All right, thanks for being with me on this one, and follow me to the next one where we're going to sign up a user.